You work for 40 years, save what you can, and hope it's enough. That's the plan we've been sold. But what if it's not just outdated? What if it's a trap? In this video, I'll show you how to retire without the old school grind, using income-generating ETFs and a timeline that fits your life. I'll break down 3 clear paths: 30 years if you're playing the long game, 20 years for steady builders, and 10 years if you're ready to go all in. You'll see how small daily investments grow into serious income, how to pick the right assets, and how to build wealth even if you're starting from zero. I'll show you the exact plan that helped Josh go from $0 to $123,000 a year in passive income, all with a $5 daily investment. And in the end, I'll show you how your portfolio could cover your expenses in just 10 years. But first, let's set the foundation. Let's talk about what real wealth means today. Not luxury or status, but stability. The freedom to cover your expenses without worrying whether your next paycheck will be enough. Now, think about what it actually costs to live a normal life. Nothing fancy, just basic comfort. Maybe your rent or mortgage runs around $900. Groceries, around $400. Add $200 for utilities, $150 for transportation, $150 for insurance or healthcare, and maybe another $200 for everything else. Coffee runs, clothes, a night out. Altogether, that's roughly $2,000 a month just to live an ordinary, decent life. And that's the challenge. Most people are trading every single one of those dollars for hours. The moment you stop working, the money stops too. It's not laziness, it's just how the system's built. You earn, you spend, repeat. And with prices rising faster than paychecks, the gap keeps widening. But there's another way to play the game, one where your income doesn't rely on showing up. That's what income-producing assets are for. Things like ETFs, dividend stocks, and REITs. ETFs give you tiny pieces of hundreds of companies growing right alongside the market. Dividend stocks actually share their profits with you every few months, money that lands in your account whether you're working or not. And REITs, which own real estate like apartments or storage units, pay you part of the rent collected from those properties. Each of these assets is like a mini employee that never sleeps. The more you own, the more they pay you. And as that income grows and compounds, your assets start covering your $2,000 a month on their own. That's real wealth. Now the question is, what if you're starting from zero? How do you actually build that engine from scratch? Let's break that down next. Most people believe you need money to make money, but that's not how real compounding works. The truth is, most Americans start from almost nothing. The difference between those who build wealth and those who don't isn't how much they begin with, it's how early they begin. According to the latest research, the median emergency savings across America is just $600. For Gen Z, it's only $200. Millennials average around $500, Gen X about $868, and even boomers, who have spent decades in the workforce, sit at roughly $1,000. These numbers show how fragile most people's finances really are. One car repair, medical bill, or rent increase can wipe out what little safety net they have. It's not irresponsibility, it's that wages haven't kept up with housing, healthcare, and food costs. For millions, saving feels like a stretch, and investing feels completely out of reach. But you don't need thousands to start. It's about redirecting small, everyday amounts of money into assets that grow for you. Think about it. Most people spend about $5 to $10 a day on things that add no long-term value. A coffee, delivery fees, subscriptions, impulse buys. That's $150 to $300 a month disappearing. Over 10 years, that adds up to $18,000 spent and gone forever. Now, if that same $150 a month were invested instead, earning an average 8% return, it would grow to about $27,000 in 10 years and over $135,000 in 30. Add dividends and reinvest them, and that total climbs even higher. Starting from $0 doesn't mean failure. It means beginning from where most people truly are. The difference is whether you let those dollars slip away or turn them into something that builds your future. Now that you understand how small, steady investments grow over time, the next step is learning how to choose the right assets. Not every company or fund that pays dividends is worth owning. Some look great on paper, but crumble when the economy slows. The first thing to look at is dividend yield, which is the percentage of income you receive each year from the money you've invested. A strong, healthy yield sits in the middle ground, not too high to signal danger, and not too low to feel meaningless. The goal isn't chasing the biggest payout, it's finding consistent, sustainable income that grows. That's where dividend growth comes in. You want companies or funds that have raised their payouts year after year, sometimes for decades. That consistency means they're profitable, disciplined, and confident about the future. It also keeps your income rising with inflation, turning flat cash flow into a growing paycheck. But even the best dividend payer can't carry your portfolio alone. That's why diversification is non-negotiable. You want a balance of industries, geographies, and asset types, some that provide stability, others that offer growth, and a few that hedge against inflation. This blend smooths out volatility and keeps your income reliable, no matter what happens in the market. And finally, look for financial health. Look for companies with low debt, reasonable payout ratios, and steady earnings. These are the ones that keep paying and even raising dividends during tough years when others can't. In just a couple of minutes, I'll walk you through the exact plan that helped Josh go from $0 to $123,000 a year in passive income, all starting with only $5 a day. And by the end, you'll see how your portfolio could cover your expenses in as little as 10 years. Before we dive into the specific stocks, ETFs, or plans, let's set a clear goal. Because investing without a target is like driving without a destination. You need to know what you're aiming for. In this case, we're building toward one simple idea: financial freedom. Not retiring early for the sake of bragging rights, but reaching the point where your investments can comfortably pay your bills and support your lifestyle, even if you stopped working tomorrow. So here's what that looks like in numbers. For the 30-year plan, our goal is to create an inflation-adjusted income of about $10,000 per month. That's enough to cover most lifestyles comfortably, even decades from now when prices will be higher. For the 20-year plan, we're targeting around $6,000 a month, a solid, flexible income that could supplement your job, support partial retirement, or simply give you more breathing room. And for the 10-year plan, the goal is roughly $2,500 a month. Not full financial freedom yet, but enough to replace a major portion of your expenses or build the confidence to work less and live more. Each plan has the same foundation: steady investing, smart diversification, and compounding. But the time horizon changes how aggressive we need to be. The shorter the timeline, the more intentional every dollar has to be. Now that the goals are clear, let's see how we can actually reach them, starting with the 30-year plan, where patience turns into real power. The 30-year plan is the blueprint for turning patience into wealth that doesn't depend on luck, timing, or constant market chasing. It's slow, predictable, and deeply rewarding for anyone willing to stay consistent long enough for compounding to take over. And the target here is to achieve $10,000 in monthly dividend income. The plan starts with SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. This is your anchor. It focuses on strong, reliable US companies that consistently reward shareholders. With a 3.87% dividend yield, 10.43% dividend growth, and 7.3% yearly share price appreciation, it's built for long-term income growth and stability. Next comes INTF, the iShares International Equity Factor ETF. This one adds global balance, exposure to markets that often grow when the US slows down. It offers a 2.72% dividend yield, 19.36% dividend growth, and 4.24% annual price appreciation, giving your portfolio an international edge. For long-term growth, VOO, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, captures the entire US economy's power. With a modest 1.12% dividend yield, 6.17% dividend growth, and 12.48% annual share price appreciation, it's your capital growth engine. To strengthen returns, you add two single stocks, Morgan Stanley and CubeSmart. Morgan Stanley brings financial strength and resilience with a 2.44% dividend yield, 21.48% dividend growth, and 17.29% annual price appreciation. CubeSmart, a real estate REIT, provides a hedge against inflation. It pays a 5.52% yield, 12.51% dividend growth, and sees a 3.03% yearly price appreciation. The next step is to calculate the portfolio dividend yield. The easiest way to do this is by finding the simple average of all the individual yields. Just take the dividend yield of each holding, add them together, and divide by the total number of holdings. For example, here are the yields for our 5 investments: SCHD 3.87%, INTF 2.72%, VOO 1.12%, MS 2.44%, and Cube 5.52%. Add them up: 3.87 plus 2.72 plus 1.12 plus 2.44 plus 5.52 equals 15.67. Now divide that by 5, since there are 5 holdings. 15.67 divided by 5 equals 3.13%. That's your portfolio dividend yield. You can use this same method to find your portfolio dividend growth rate and annual share price appreciation too. For this portfolio, the average dividend growth rate is 13.9% and the average share price appreciation is 8.87%. Before jumping into the numbers, it's worth admitting the hard part. Getting started isn't easy. Everyone loves the idea of investing, but real life doesn't pause for it. Rents do, groceries climb, and something always seems to need fixing. Most people aren't sitting on piles of cash waiting to invest. That's why it's important to keep perspective. You don't need to have it all figured out, and you definitely don't need thousands to start. What matters is beginning, no matter how small it feels. For most people, finding $5 a day isn't impossible. Now, suppose Josh invests $5 a day in this portfolio. By the end of year 1, he would have invested around $1,825. This sets the stage for future growth. By year 10, it is projected to grow to roughly $34,000, generating about $1,000 per year in dividend income. At this stage, the growth would still feel gradual, but the compounding process would already be in motion. By year 20, the effects of reinvestment would become much more visible. The portfolio is expected to be valued at approximately $180,000, paying around $12,000 in yearly income. This is the point where returns start building their own momentum, where your money begins earning on its own earnings. And by year 30, the portfolio is projected to cross $1.13 million, generating over $123,000 a year in dividends, roughly $10,000 every month, completely passive. That's the reward for turning $5 into a habit: patience, consistency, and a lifetime of financial independence. Now let's fast forward, because not everyone wants to wait 30 years. What if you want to reach freedom faster? That's where the 20-year plan comes in. The goal of the 20-year plan is simple but powerful: to build a portfolio that could generate around $6,000 per month in inflation-adjusted income, enough to comfortably cover your lifestyle and buy back your time while you're still young enough to enjoy it. The plan uses the same portfolio as the 30-year strategy, the same ETFs, the same dividend-paying companies, and the same approach. We're not changing what works, we're simply changing how much and how fast we invest. In this case, instead of $5 a day, the contribution increases to $30 a day. The reason for the higher contribution is simple. If you look at the 30-year projection, you'll notice that most of the growth happens in the last 10 years. That's the compounding curve doing its magic. Slow at first, then explosive toward the end. But in a 20-year plan, you don't have that extra decade for compounding to accelerate naturally, so you make up for it up front with larger, more consistent contributions. The concept stays identical: consistent investing, reinvesting dividends, and letting time do the heavy lifting. But in this plan, time is compressed, which means your contributions play a bigger role early on. Now let's see how those numbers play out, what $30 a day could actually grow into over 2 decades of consistent investing. Let's say Josh invests $30 a day for 20 years. By the end of year 1, he would have invested about $10,950. By year 10, his portfolio is projected to grow to around $203,000, paying close to $8,000 a year in dividend income. By year 20, Josh's total investment would be $219,000, but his portfolio is expected to exceed $1 million, paying about $74,000 annually, which is over $6,000 a month in income. The curve at this stage would steepen sharply, showing that most of the growth happens toward the end of the journey, not from massive returns, but from steady discipline and reinvestment. That's the essence of the 20-year plan: the same foundation, a tighter timeline, and a stronger commitment up front that builds freedom years sooner. Now, what if you want to go all in, compressing decades of growth into just 10 years? Let's see the strategy that makes that possible next. The goal here is to build a portfolio capable of generating around $2,500 a month in inflation-adjusted income, a level that could replace a major portion of your expenses, fund lifestyle freedom, or give you the confidence to work less and live more. The foundation still includes the same core performers you've already seen: SCHD, INTF, and CubeSmart. Because with only 10 years to work with, you can't rely solely on slow compounding. You need assets that grow quickly, pay strong dividends, and reinvest aggressively. That's why this plan introduces 2 new players: Prologis and Clearway Energy. Prologis is a global leader in industrial real estate, the warehouses, logistics hubs, and data infrastructure that power e-commerce and supply chains. It offers a 3.26% dividend yield, 10.65% dividend growth over 10 years, and an 11.12% annual share price appreciation. For a short window like this, PLD provides both speed and stability, rent-driven income that scales with demand and inflation. Clearway Energy adds the growth engine. It focuses on renewable power, one of the fastest-growing sectors worldwide. With a 5.58% dividend yield, 15.55% dividend growth, and 7.8% annual price appreciation, it delivers strong compounding potential and inflation-resistant income, essential for a compressed timeline. Together with SCHD, INTF, and Cube, this 5-asset portfolio achieves an average 4.19% dividend yield, 13.7% dividend growth, and 6.7% annual share price appreciation, a setup fine-tuned for fast compounding and aggressive income acceleration. Now, about the commitment, $70 a day or about $2,100 a month. This is where the plan's intensity shows. It's not a small commitment, but it's the trade-off for speed. You're compressing 30 years of wealth building into one focused decade. And remember, in the 30-year plan, nearly 70% of the total income growth happens in the last 10 years. That's when compounding goes exponential. By investing more aggressively now, you're essentially front-loading that growth. Now, suppose Josh invests $70 daily for 10 years. By the end of year 1, he would have invested about $25,550 building the foundation of his portfolio. By year 5, his portfolio is projected to reach around $162,000, generating roughly $7,000 a year in dividends. At this point, the compounding curve would start to bend upward, where returns begin to earn their own returns. By year 10, the portfolio is expected to be valued at about $473,000, paying roughly $30,000 annually or $2,500 a month in passive income. Want to know how to earn over $8,000 in monthly dividend income using 5 compounding strategies? Click the video on screen to find out.